everyone knows what this sign means. It's all over the world. In the modern day world, we are constantly surrounded by signs and symbols that have meanings. In many cases, these signs and symbols, icons and iconography can convey common meanings across many languages. In the ancient world, signs and symbols were used also to convey meaning to the many who could not read or write. An excellent question that I am regularly asked by my subscribers and commentators is, why are the vast majority of Roman dodecahedrons found in the northwest territories of the Roman Empire and none have been found around Rome, Italy and the Mediterranean coastal countries? I think this is a key, critical question that deserves a proper answer. This is an important question because in many cases the location of the finds are influencing the conclusions of so many of the Roman dodecahedron theories that people believe to be true. A very well-known example of this that I'm sure you will have seen is that the dodecahedrons that have been found in northwestern Europe. This is because they were used to knit woolen gloves for the Roman soldiers who had cold fingers in the winter. Now this is a fairly logical conclusion which is supported by the location of the finds. I'm not criticising this reasoning, as everyone is entitled to their own opinions on the subject, as I have said previously. I am simply offering an alternative solution, but the difference is that my solution is supported by compelling, tangible evidence from the same time and the same places where the Roman dodecahedrons actually existed. By the end of this video, you will understand why the vast majority of Roman dodecahedrons have been found in the northwestern territories and none have been found around Rome, Italy and the Mediterranean coastal countries. I will suggest to you why the small gold dodecahedrons have been found in the Middle East and the Far East and their significance. You will understand why we haven't found any matching pairs of dodecahedrons. You will have seen that there is traceable pictorial evidence for the dodecahedron from history and how it fitted into society. One of the most frustrating facts I have found about investigating the Roman dodecahedron is that we are told that there are no written records and documents or images of the dodecahedron from antiquity. Well, now I would like you to watch closely, as I'm now going to show you that this is not the case. Way back in June, when I first started on my journey to understand the intended use of the Roman dodecahedron and was absorbed in my research, I saw a fleeting image for just a split second of something really interesting and important to my investigation. At the time, I really didn't understand the significance of it and what its consequences would mean in proving my theory. Some weeks later, I did, and its impact on me was immediate. This, I felt, was crucial evidence in answering this important question about find locations and distribution and assisting in helping me to prove my theory. At one stage, I thought I'd just imagined seeing it. Then I found I couldn't remember seeing it and what it looked like. So how could I possibly find the image I was looking for again? Then finally, one day when I was involved in doing something completely different, I remembered exactly what I'd seen and where to look for it. Amazingly, after some time, I found the image I was looking for. So now I could move forward in providing a logical answer to the question, supported by some compelling evidence. This is a Roman Dodecahedron. These are the heads of Octavian and his famous great-uncle Julius Caesar. Caesar is on the left. Now the coin was struck at a mint run by the Roman military at the settlement of Lugdunum in Lyon in Gaul, roughly circa 36 BC, which I do appreciate is a little early in our timeline, but I will give you my answer to this point presently. If we flip the coin over, I think you will see something really interesting. Near the prow of the ship, you will see what I think looks like a stylised representation of a Roman dodecahedron. What does it look like to you? What is a Roman dodecahedron doing on the deck of a ship? If you spend some time looking, you will see many of these coins are for sale online in various auction houses across the world. Here is a drawing I found somewhere on Wikipedia showing the coin in a little more detail. I will give you the link below. You can see more clearly a representation of a Roman dodecahedron. But what is also unbelievably fascinating about the coin is this. As you can see, this is a Roman dodecahedron which was found locally to where the coin was made in Lugdunum in Lyon in France. Checking with the chief curator at the Lugdunum Museum at Fourvière near Lyon in France, he confirms that this dodecahedron was found locally and dates from roughly the 1st century AD. So it is not impossible that the man who made the coin stamps could have seen a Roman dodecahedron, perhaps not necessarily this one, but he knew about their existence and what it was used for in the settlement of Lugdunum. To me, this is compelling and tangible evidence of a dodecahedron in Lugdunum and coins made with dodecahedrons stamped on them in Lugdunum. I will show you even more evidence that I have managed to find later in this video, after I have explained to you what this representation of a Roman dodecahedron on the prow of a ship means for us in our quest to understand the current finds location picture. But first, my name is Matthias. I have a problem. I live near the toe of Italy in the Roman Empire, and I have a good trading business in corn and wheat. I'm doing quite well locally, but I would like to try and expand my business empire into other countries surrounding the Mediterranean Sea. But it's very difficult finding new customers to trade with in these areas and keep in contact with them about business transactions. Also, I have very little experience in overseas transport and freight. You see, it's really difficult finding someone who you can trust. I would be really worried about pirates finding out about my trading deals and robbing me. I might just take a walk along the harbour front and try and find someone who can help me with this. Here's an interesting looking boat. What's that strange looking thing on the front of it? What does it mean? Okay. What is a Roman dodecahedron doing on board a ship? Before we move on, it is important to state that the significance of this discovery means that it actually throws the vast number of the other theories presently being suggested as to the actual use of the Roman dodecahedron into serious question and doubt. So let's take another quick look at our coin for a moment. In early times, coins weren't just a means for exchanging wealth by paying for goods and services. Obviously, there was no television, radio or internet or social media. The images on coins were used as a method of spreading political messages and propaganda by the issuers, normally kings or emperors in this case. Look at the message this coin is saying. Relax, don't worry, and everything will be okay. I'm the Emperor Octavian. I've learnt much from my famous uncle, Julius Caesar, and his blood runs through my veins. If you work hard in the fields growing crops, then using fresh ideas and the latest technology, we can create lasting, healthy trade relationships with our neighbouring countries, and there will be plenty for all. The word copia, which is at the bottom of the coin, which I remember from my Latin homework, means plenty or abundance. Incidentally, the tall bottle-shaped thing also at the prow of the boat is not the stub of the mast, but what is known as a meta, of which there are two inside the large arenas. These were the posts that form the chariot racing circuit, like you see in the film Ben-Hur. So Octavian is also promising entertainment and sporting events for all the masses, so more political hype is being shown on the coin. Do you really think that the Roman Emperor Octavian would put the image of a dodecahedron on one of his coins to encourage or support gaming dice or gambling? As I mentioned earlier, the coin originates from about 36 BC, and I think that the idea of the dodecahedron being used as a coding device may have originated in Greece and was being used by the trading empire to secure messages between the Greek ports and islands for trading purposes. And this eventually spread out into the rest of the Mediterranean. As I said in my first video, from a Roman perspective, it is a fact that Julius Caesar used the Caesar shift cipher to send coded messages, but after some period of successful use, code breakers were able to break this code by the brute force technique. So an alternative coding system was required. I am suggesting that the Romans started to adopt the dodecahedron coding system technology about the time that the coin was minted. Here you can see a map of the Roman Empire and the Mediterranean Sea. I will now try and show you how the system worked. Theoretical conjecture ahead. First of all, before we start, we will cover the code wheel distribution issue later in this video, so please just bear with me on this detail for a moment while I explain the principle of how the system works. I'm Matthias, and I live here near the toe of Italy. The boat comes in, I meet the captain, I go to his cabin, I borrow his dodecahedron, We've agreed to use its plain text wheel, and I encode a message using my own code wheel to Fabio, my trading partner, who has an identical code wheel also. I send a message to Fabio, who trades out of Cyprus. The captain does his business in port and leaves with my coded message, which he drops off with Fabio in the port of Cyprus. Fabio goes on board, borrows the dodecahedron from the captain, uses the captain's code wheel, and decodes my message to him using his own copy of the code wheel, which we both share. The next day, Fabio goes back on board. He encodes a message back to me, which he leaves with the captain to give me on his travels. Eventually, after a week or so, the captain returns to port and I go down to the ship and decode Fabio's message. I sleep on the decision, and next day we load up my wheat and corn to go to Fabio's port. So the captain continues on his travels, transporting cargoes and messages between his many different customers in and around the Mediterranean. This activity is exactly what was stamped on the coin. I think that this simple trading arrangement, which the Romans learnt from the Greeks, became widespread and explains why there have been no Roman dodecahedrons found in and around the southwestern territories and around the Mediterranean and in Italy. Because of what I've shown you, the people on shores of the Mediterranean didn't need to own dodecahedrons. They were owned by the ship's captain or owner. The dodecahedrons were kept on the ships so they could be used by the local people to send messages quickly and securely within these areas. This is very similar to ships using wireless telegraphy to send messages to different places in the early 20th century. People could ask for messages to be sent between ports, and the people didn't need to own a wireless telegraph. In this marine application, the dodecahedron travelled with the ships that carried the coded messages to the recipients. I'm merely suggesting that if you were trading, the messaging service was free. If you just wanted to send a message, you had to pay the captain. The cost of owning a Roman dodecahedron was considerably expensive, and it would only work for sending coded messages if the receiver had the same one also. And if you were a trader, then all the members of your trading network would also need an identical one. So this would be a major problem with a major cost. But it was the captain of the ship or the owner that owned the Roman dodecahedron. The cost of the Roman dodecahedron was relatively slight in comparison to the cost of the ship. It meant that the ship's captain could offer a free service of conveying coded messages between different ports in and around the Mediterranean. This meant that traders could now borrow and use the ship's dodecahedron to send and receive coded messages to other traders in the trading network on the proviso that the users use the captain's plain text wheel that were subtly scrambled to ensure the traders' loyalty to the system. Basically, what was on offer was free international secure messaging for all the captain's freight customers. So this created a tripartite contract between the two traders involved and the captain of the merchant vessel. The merchants did business and the ship made money from carrying the freight. This was regular returning business for the captain and his boat. The captain was not able to decode the messages because he didn't own the code wheels. He just owned the dodecahedron and his plain text wheel that he changed from time to time to keep his customers loyal to him. The traders couldn't send the messages without the captain and his dodecahedron and the captain's plain text wheel. So the captain didn't know the specifics of the trade transaction, such as the final cost of the deal, for example, or what the traders were planning next. Because the messages were secure, the traders remained loyal to the merchant captain, and the future business relationship between the three parties was secured and complete. So the image on the coin means dodecahedron on board this ship. You can send and receive coded messages from here. Here is another coin from the reign of the Emperor Septimus Severus, which is much later, between 193 and 211 AD in period. As you can see, the dodecahedron has now evolved into the form of an even more stylized shape. It has now been abbreviated to a pentagonal shape or symbol at the prow of the ship. By this time, after many years of use, this symbol or icon was well understood by everyone in the surrounding areas. Here is another coin from the time of Mark Antony dating from 43 BC to 30 BC, showing a five-sided object at the prow of a ship. The emblem at the prow of the ship is still a pentagon, which represents an understood meaning to those who are interested. As an aside, all this may also go some way to providing an explanation to the existence of the small gold dodecahedrons that have been found along the Silk Route towards the Middle East and even into the far east of Asia. You can perhaps imagine some commercial traveller having encountered the use of the Roman dodecahedron for sending coded messages across the Mediterranean for trading purposes and attempting to expand or grow this capability elsewhere. He has a very small Roman dodecahedron made in gold and wears it as a jewellery accessory when he meets other traders. They say, "What is that nice piece of gold you are wearing?" "This is ancient bling." What it's really saying is, "I'm a rich, successful merchant who has traded in distant lands, and I have business contacts in faraway exotic places." He says, "Oh, thank you." And then he says, "Maybe I can help you break into the Western markets if you would really like to." And they say, "Oh, that sounds interesting." How did the traders exchange code wheels? Both permanent and periodic markets took place in Rome, and these were denoted by several Latin words including forum, macellum, nundine and mercatus. While the terms forum and macellum are used to denote the actual space in which the trading takes place, Nundine and Mercatus refer to the market institutions themselves. There is documentary evidence to support this. Also, traders could have met at gladiatorial or sports games held throughout the Roman calendar in much the same way that modern business people meet at football matches and sports events to rub shoulders and to do business in today's world. It's not difficult to imagine a trader visiting a foreign trading port and meeting other traders directly to scout for business and exchange the code wheels at their meeting. Now back to our map and locations of the finds. I've attempted to explain my theory for the lack of dodecahedrons around the Mediterranean, but why are the finds located in the northwestern parts of the Roman Empire? The Roman military had seen the successful use of the Roman dodecahedron coding system over a period of time and began to adapt the system and use it to support its activities of conquering and subduing the northwestern territories. They obviously couldn't send the messages and the dodecahedrons with the messengers across the land journeys backwards and forwards like the sea captains did. It would be too dangerous. And the dodecahedrons would get captured, stolen, or just lost. And strategically, the dodecahedrons would always be in the wrong place at the wrong time. On the ships, of course, in the marine application, the dodecahedron was in the right place at the right time. So, as I have explained previously, matching sets of dodecahedrons had to be made and distributed to the designated communication groups as required, and this allowed the coded messages to flow backwards and forwards across the land routes as required. This is why the Roman dodecahedrons were, over a period of roughly 400 years, scattered over the northwestern parts of the empire, particularly where military activity, the subjugation of contentious territories and conflict occurred. One issue that people have with my theory is that no two identical Roman dodecahedrons have been found. First of all, this may not be the case, as all the dodecahedrons that have been found have not been measured accurately on the same basis and probably never will be. This is because of the approximately 133 dodecahedrons and fragments known. Some are on display in museums, some are hidden in museum collections because they don't really fall into any understood context or category or theme, and some are in private collections all over the world. Secondly, and probably more to the point, is that we generally take the use of the dodecahedrons to be between the beginning of the 1st century AD and roughly the end of the 4th century AD. Over this time, maybe thousands were made and distributed and used. Then the communications groups will have changed, and the dodecahedrons may have been melted down and recast to produce new and different ones, or even other items, so we are not able to see a perfect snapshot in time. For example, one dodecahedron could be from 159 AD, and the next one could be from 179 AD, so we cannot tell exactly. Regrettably, what we are left with is a very large drawer containing a very large selection of odd socks from different places and different eras. I think that these two statements explain why we have not found a matching pair of dodecahedrons yet. I've explained why the dodecahedron finds map looks like it does, and why dodecahedrons have not been found around the Mediterranean, and why they have been found in the northwestern Roman Empire. No other existing theory can explain this. I've explained how the dodecahedron evolved from an earlier maritime trading coding system to a system adopted by the Roman military. I have offered an explanation for the small golden dodecahedrons that have been found in Eastern Asia. No other existing theory can explain this. In my previous videos, I have shown compelling evidence from the Roman period of the manufacture of a dodecahedron code wheel from the same area and time that a dodecahedron was found at Corbridge in Northumberland. In this video, I have shown that pictorial evidence for the Roman dodecahedron actually did exist in antiquity from the Roman period and still exists to this present day. And this is also supported by a dodecahedron that was found where the coins were actually made. So this is why I believe that my theory is the only one that is actually supported by any real evidence that can be credibly linked to the Roman dodecahedron. Bye for now. Are you not entertained?